there, Scorcho. Amazing atheist here. I just wanted to address your question very briefly. And very briefly for me usually means about 8 minutes. So let's get started. Your first point was it's kind of weird for an atheist who says, don't rely on religion as a crutch and all this stuff, to, go on and do all these drugs, which are, basically having the same effect. The problem with that is that the euphoria associated with religion is not the part we have a problem with. Well, not the part I have a problem with anyway. I have a problem with, the killing and the weird auxiliary morality and the waste of time and life on, dedicated to stupid rituals, and the way that it affects policy in America and around the world, and the way that it makes people super judgmental of others, and the way that it gives people instant justification for their prejudices and stuff like that. That's the problem I have with religion. I don't have a problem with people who feel the light of Christ and feel, oh wow, I feel so great. That's not the problem. The problem is what they'll do to get that fix. And I think that's the problem with all drugs. The crack isn't the problem. What people will do to get crack is the problem. Let's just discuss. Let's discuss the difference between a drug user and a drug abuser, because I think there's a line there. And I think that there are people who use drugs very responsibly, people who are not taking them all the time, people who use them in moderation, people who are very responsible, people who are spotted, people who have people spot them when they trip, people who have precautions set in line, people who make sure that they are getting good shit and not just cheap crap and stuff. If you want to talk about issues of health, because you call it a poison, repeatedly, a poison, it's a poison, it's a poison, it's a poison. No, it's not a poison. Thing is, a poison is something that harms you and makes you sick. Drugs might have that effect in the long term, but the more immediate effect is it makes you happy. Now, drugs don't make you sick. They don't harm you in the immediate. They're not something that harms you immediately. They're not something that makes you sick or die. They're something that makes you happy. They're something that makes you experience a state of mind that you couldn't possibly experience without them. And they might have long-term hazardous effects, and that's something that people should know about before they ever choose to do drugs. But it's something that you should say, okay, this could be harmful down the line. Am I willing to accept the risk of harm and enjoy its immediate effects now? And as long as people are making that decision with informed eyes, they understand what they're getting themselves into, and we have a system that is regulating the drugs, that makes sure that the drugs are not going to be, that we're not getting bad drugs, we're not getting drugs that are harmful to people, we're not having people cut things with other things. We have, doctors that evaluate whether or not you should enjoy a recreational drug or not set up. Then there's really no problem. Then, people who, you can get that thing. In fact, I think that would be a big step towards getting rid of religion, because people would no longer have to take that avenue of going to church and being sure to vote for the certain candidate that represents their crazy moral values or whatever. They would now just be able to take a drug and get that same effect and not have any of that ideology attached to it. In fact, you don't have to have any ideology at all attached to a drug. You can do a drug and believe whatever you want. You don't have to believe in Christ or in Buddha or in Allah or any of those things. There's no one asking you to do anything for the drug. It's just a drug. And you know that. It's just chemicals affecting your brain. And as long as you make that informed decision, and that's what you want, then there's nothing wrong with it, because it does not affect you in any other way than the way that you are willing to, the way that you are. It doesn't have any other effect other than the one you want, and the one you're willing to accept. And religion can't make that claim. If you dedicate your life to Christ, chances are you're going to be doing something that doesn't make any fucking sense at some point in the future. Also, if you want to talk about health risks, let's talk about my real addiction, which is not drugs. I don't use drugs very commonly. I don't even have a dealer. I don't know anyone who sells them around here, so I don't really have access to them. But let's talk about my real addiction. Let's talk about what caused this. Wasn't drugs, I'll tell you that much. That was caused by Burger King. That was caused by McDonald's. Well, more to the point, it was caused by my choosing to use those things. But let's talk about, you work, I don't know if you work in that garage or do you work in an office attached to that garage. But at any rate, if you work in the garage, then you're breathing in enough CO2 a day to probably account for at least 1 or 2 packs of cigarettes. If you don't smoke, which I'm assuming you don't because you seem to have a problem with poison. It seems really weird to me that, we're living in a world where our food is fucking terrible for us, and it's fucking pumped full of chemicals and preservatives and all that shit. And we have cars out there spewing fucking fumes nonstop all fucking day. We have factories with big smokestacks sticking out of them. We have toxic waste going into the water. We have all these fucking health hazards presented to us. We're driving around in these cars, which were fucking death traps. You're fucking so. Drugs is not. It's on the top 10 list of things that can kill you, but after the first 3 things, there's a pretty big fucking drop off. And really, a lot of the drug deaths could be avoided if we had a society that embraced drug use and drug users and gave them a safe environment to do drugs in. That's really all I have to say about it. I hope that this has been informative. I hope that I've maybe enlightened you on a few points. If not, at least I hope you at least give it some consideration, or that it's at least made you stop and think about some of the things. And thank you very much for your question. Probably the best question I got. So, thank you very much. Peace out.